We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
The voice, but you want up the crowd. A vision of weakness you don't, but your voice is so loud. I'm the butt of your joke, cause I draw more girls you hang round. You kill to make your imprint on my soul.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wright. The fans forum is here, all present and correct. Good evening to George, Barry, to Darren, to Ian, to Chippers, to Alan, to Kevin, to Lee. Welcome back to Lee, and to Spenny, and of course you in the chat. Good chance to, what do I say today? I don't know how to describe it. Do I have a moan and a groan? Do I have a show of complete disbelief? I'm not quite sure.
Dull moment, Steve. Never a dull moment.
72 hours, Alan, of absolute madness. It really has to be said. I've never seen as many speculative stories in the space of 72 hours in my time as a Newcastle United fan, and all coming from completely out of the blue. And George, the latest story running across the social media networks and across the news networks is a potential move for Miguel Almiron to Saudi Arabia, to Al Habab. So it's looking fairly likely that might go ahead. Kieran Trippier, latest line on Kieran Trippier after the speculative stories at the weekend is that he would he wouldn't be objecting to a move if Newcastle wanted to sell him. And Callum Wilson, obviously now not one clubs but two clubs have at least tried to prize Wilson away from Newcastle, but nothing doing on that one at the moment. Javier Manquillo, of course, has moved. He's gone to Celta Vigo now. His contract was coming to an end at the end of the season. He's reunited now with Rafa Benitez, the manager, of course, who signed him for Newcastle United. And I guess we're just waiting for the next story to come out. But what was a transfer window of silence, George, is now erupted into a fire sale, it appears. One would imagine, and there hasn't been any clear-cut links yet, that Newcastle are busy working on players coming in if these players are going to go out. So, yeah, George, give us your take on the last 72 hours or so of transfer speculation surrounding our club.
It's typical of the national press of Newcastle United, isn't it? All the press, in fact, in Newcastle United. If they can find a story that rubbishes us in some way, they'll print it. And if they can't find one, they'll invent one. And that's exactly what's been happening all this last year. Some of them, if they're true, then for example, if they're talking about silly funny for Miggy, then I'd be gobsmacked if they didn't take it. And if they're getting silly money for even for Wilson with his glass legs and what have you, it may be sensible to take that as well. But for Wilson, I'd want somebody back in that could support Isak, because Isak isn't a lone player. He needs to be alongside somebody to be really effective. Trippier clearly hasn't been happy at Newcastle United since the burglary incident at his home. And I can understand that. You've had it, Steve, but I remember what happened to us with Margie and I in our previous house when we were burgled. And it was bad enough, but...
Well, I'll just stop you there, George, because we don't know that that's happened. That is speculation. That is something that's gone round on social media. It's gone round on WhatsApp. We don't know if that's happened to Kieran Trippier. We know that there was an attempt on Joe Linton's house, but we don't know that is the case with Kieran Trippier. It's a speculative story which is circulating on social media, and I must stress that that's your opinion, George, not ours.
Well, that's right. Well, that's my opinion, and certainly the people I've talked to, as far as I'm concerned, it happened. But never mind, that's another issue. All of these things, what I'm trying to say is all of these things get picked up. And as I say, if they cannot get a story out of it, the Nationals particularly will add things on and invent their own. Not only the Nationals, some of the locals as well, who I did think better of, would be more sensible about this. So, and frankly, lads, it's not new. There was a period of time, even way back in the early 50s and 60s, that if you coughed at Newcastle, the whole world knew about it. So it's not new to Newcastle. There's a nice little video going around that I've seen it of Bob Stoke and Jackie Milburn talking about their time at the club, and you just need to listen to that to see what's different. But Bob Stoke was saying, we knew we were the highest paid players in the country, and it all got the same, but they knew they were that. And it spelled a different style of things to what we've got now. Now we've got everybody bidding for the highest salary and all that sort of tribe, and the press pick on that. It helps their narrative that there's something wrong here. That's the plain side of it, but there is a negative side of it for me. I'm hugely disappointed at how badly our management, both senior, middle and lower down, have dealt with this, and quite often leave poor Eddie Howe to deal with it in his press conference. Now, I don't think that's fair. There are lots of things they could be jumping on straight away and either correcting them or steering people in the opposite direction. They don't have to say what we're doing in the background. That we wouldn't expect them to. We're hoping that that's happening out of sight. But there are lots of things that have happened which a senior manager could look at the Dan Ashworth thing. Weeks ago, somebody could have come out and said he's not gone anywhere. Never mind Manchester United, he's not gone anywhere. And that's what I think, in my view. I'm sorry, unless I've lost my banking skills. But any business I'd have been involved in, somebody wanted one of my top executives, I would have been telling them to get lost straight away and reassuring the man that he was safe here. Not just letting it sail away with the press and he's going there, he's getting this money and that money. That all is quite disappointing to me, as is some of the other stuff that's been coming out of St James's Park. And the last thing, because I've already hogged enough time, is that if we're silly enough to go this window and not get players in to support Eddie Howe, then the next thing I think is when does Eddie Howe walk? Because they'd really let that lad down if they didn't put some people in, get some people in, even if they're loans. But if they get silly money for Miggy, I wouldn't object for it. And same for Wilson, to be perfectly honest. But Trippier to me is more than just about the player and money. He's too much an influence in our club at the moment. He's looked up to by everybody. I know he's not the captain, but on the field he is. And you can see how the other players respect them and all the rest of it. Now, that influence in the club's always very nice, always handy. Who's been greeting new players when they've arrived at St James's Park, whether they were internationals or whether they were locals or whatever? Kieran Trippier. And that's the kind of professional awareness every football club needs, including Newcastle United, because frankly, at management level, we're short of some professionals. So him there, I would regard Trippier as a really downturn, and I think players thinking of coming here would think it'd be a downturn as well. So there you are. That's my start anyway.
Okay, lots of comments coming in, as you would imagine, about various things. This transpersonal window is becoming an Ashley-style mess, says Cynical Jim. I've got to be honest, Jim, let's judge it at the end of the transfer window. I don't think we can really talk about, things being positive and things being negative until, we know. But at the moment, the speculation is just gone through the roof over the course of the last couple of days, and it is crazy. Just an update from Craig Hope, his social media. AC Milan want to sign Callum Wilson on a permanent deal. Atletico Madrid had a loan offer rejected, and Newcastle insist they want to keep the striker. Wilson's got 18 months left on his contract, but he would be open to talks if the club accept an offer. It's a similar kind of slant on the Trippier story. They basically want him on a permanent deal, Bayern Munich, if they can get him. They're also approached on loan. It's been rejected on both. Newcastle have insisted he's not for sale, but he would be up for a move if that was what the club wanted and if it was to go through. There's an update as well on Joe Linton's thigh operation on Craig Hope's page, so well worth having a look on there and just checking in to see what latest updates he has, because he does at this moment seem to be one journalist who's got his finger on the pulse. Barry, it's all just come out of the blue, this, hasn't it, really? We thought this was going to be a quiet transfer window.
It's a weird one because the stories seem to be overlapping as well. I mean, I was reading the Ben Jacobs story about Miggy, and obviously Ben's on here, and I honestly trust what Ben says, that it's got a decent chance of being true. So he was linking the story for Miggy going to Saudi, obviously dependent on fees and everything else. But then obviously Craig Hope, we say Craig Hope's reliable, but you've then got AC Milan coming out and saying they don't want a striker, they don't need one. They've got 3 strikers who are firing on all cylinders at the minute anyway, so why would they sign Callum Wilson? So you're like, hang on, what's going on here? The Kieran Trippier I can see, because as you guys said on the show last night, Steve, it was buying a crying out for a right back. They haven't got a single player in their squad who's fit at the minute who can play in that position. And you've got the links to Dyer and Harry Kane there, so I can see why we seem to just have gone. We've gone from letting nothing come out about the club to like just letting everything come out and just making a complete mockery of it. It's just winding the fans up something rotten. I mean, I agree again with what you said yesterday. If it was a case of them going, if it was a case of getting that sort of money for Trippier, for Wilson, for whoever, at the end of the season, totally understand it. I would clap my hands thinking we're going to get that sort of money at this stage of the season with the players that we've got, unless there are players ready to come back, which is not going to be anybody to come back for Wilson. But obviously we've got the likes of Harvey Barnes, Jacob Murphy, who's heading back to fitness, but they're not going to. I can see them taking over Miggy's position, but nobody's going to replace Wilson. That's unless, like the guys are saying in the chat there, that there's somebody definitely lined up for Newcastle to buy. Which, if it is, why are we still at that stage where we've got to sell somebody to bring somebody in? Is that how bad we are at the minute? Because that's just it's another thing that's just winding the fans up. It's like George said it the other day that obviously the owners, I totally agree with George that I had a lot of trust in them, had a lot of respect for the way they've done things. For me, this just is another example of how badly the fans are being treated. It's winding them up something rotten. And I think it would be nice of somebody to come out the club and just knock a few of these stories back. If they're crap, tell us they're crap. You don't have to say we're signing such and such tomorrow. Just say, well, there's no truth in this rumor. There's no truth in that rumor. But because we're getting nothing, it seems like the press are just running wild with it.
Yeah, I mean, the Miggy story, like Craig Hope's come out and said about 10 minutes ago, is that there's been no not for sale insistence regarding Almiron. Saudi interest being registered and understand proposed fee was around 20 million euros, but there's nothing being agreed. So I just think, Darren, that, they must have a plan, because ultimately they're not going to allow these players to go, especially with the injury list that we still currently have. There's still 11 first team players unavailable for selection. That they've got to have players coming in to the club, and ultimately for me, letting players go in January seems very odd, especially when all we've heard I guess, for the last 2 years is about how Eddie Howe is always reluctant to put players straight in. He likes to have them up to his level. He likes to have those players capable of, hitting the ground running, but also they've got to get up to the squad's speed, if you like. This all seems a complete, U-turn on all of that, because the one thing that Eddie Howe's going to have to do if he loses a couple of players is put 2 players in who won't have had any time to really train, and they're going to go straight into 2 games very, very quickly. Fulham in the FA Cup. Well, if we sign players who are cup tied, it rules them out of that. But on top of that, we've also got a big Premier League game against Villa a few days later. So these players are going to have to be available. They may have to play. We've only got 3 fit central midfielders at the moment, which is a problem. So for me, it's the timing of all of this. Plus, it's very unsettling going into realistic what is our only chance of winning a trophy against, going into this game against Fulham, our next game. It's going to be a nightmare. And I bet when Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall arrived back in Newcastle today and got up to the training ground, they must have felt like going absolutely mental. It wouldn't have been happy. And Eddie Howe's press conference on Friday should be fun, Darren. That's for certain.
Yeah, it's been a strange one, Steve. I'm in a few WhatsApp group. One of the main ones has been like the transfer about Mickey today. I've been on site, but I had one of the 5 messages talking about Mickey and all the lads kicking off. I know, like what you said on Friday, Steve, where you said some great things on Friday. You said if we need to sell players, most sell players, but of the players who were talking about going, Mickey and Wilson, I'd rather see them go in the summer, because it's like our squad's not that strong. You hit the nail on the head. If Eddie Howe gets anybody in, they're not going to be Eddie Howe standard of first team football, are they? So Kieran Trippier, I've heard a different rumor, George. I've heard something else, but I don't want to say it because it's not my business to say. So that's why he hasn't been playing well for the last month or so. It's my rumour. I've heard. I think it's right. But I wouldn't. If he wants to go and play with his pal Harry Kane and Eric Dyer, let him go. I hate to say is keep playing for the sake of it, but I think he wants to go. I'm convinced.
Well, plus the wives are all friends.
I think it's his agent doing the work. His agents are their money season, so I don't think he wants to go and see his pals. But we need players in. It's already let them go, but we need to get players in. If Wilson wants to go, let him go. You would see that we like to throw them. To me, that tells me he wants to go. Mickey, he hasn't said nothing else, but it all depends. We can let him go, but we need somebody in. But you hit the nail on the head, Steve. Whoever gets, are they going to be cup tied? Are they going to be match fit in Eddie Howe standards?
John Chaplow says, if all these players do move on, all this unrest, does anyone think it's because the players know Eddie's going and unfortunately Mourinho in and the players aren't happy about it? Just a wild guess. I would say there's been problems in that dressing room. We've highlighted it on this show. The way that some of the players have been reacting with each other over the course of the last 8 weeks. George has highlighted it on more than one occasion on the show. He's watched and players bickering and arguing. I think there's something gone on. But what's gone on, we just don't know. Those kind of things stay behind closed doors, and that's what should happen. Ian,
hello,
all
mate.
of it, transfer speculation, mate. What's your views?
Well, that's what it is, and it's all speculation at the moment. It's a non-story for me in the way that where there's articles stating, the player's up for going if there's an offer accepted. Well, obviously, if I played for a team and the team accepted an offer, that means you're not wanted there. And if another team wants you and you're not wanted, or they're happy, or they want to cash in on you, they want to take the money, then for me, that's part of the course. I think that's a non-story. I don't think it's a case that they're pushing for a transfer. It's just my opinion. I might be wrong, but it doesn't. I couldn't see Kieran Trippier wanting to leave the club at this moment in time personally, because did he not want to come in from Atletico to get back to the UK? And things change. I know, but it just seems a bit weird that it's not just one player, lots and lots of players at the moment and it seems like it's a targeted onslaught. But saying that, Miggy, 20 million euros for me in this window. 20 million euros is probably about right, but not in the winter window. I'd be asking for at least 50% on top of that, if not more, because you can't get anybody in this window for 20 million euros. And whenever we think about Miggy, he is a quality player. He puts the graft in. His end product might not have been there as such this season, but last season it was. So I would be looking for at least 30 to 35 for Miggy in this window. Trippier, I wouldn't sell in this window. Just like he's the figurehead of the team for me outside of the management. He's so important on the field. Even when he's not performing, he keeps standards high. I don't want to sort of. I'm not even going to say that because I'll get killed. I'll get killed so I'm not going to say what I was. Trouble, No, I was gonna liken him to somebody who was a great captain, but an absolute, plonker, who played for clubs that we hate. As in his influence, even when he's not playing badly. When he's playing badly, he brings other people up to standard. But I'm not going to say the name Roy Keane because I'll get killed. So, I just think. I just think we have to sit tight, and there's a lot of bums twitching, like mine is as well. I'm just looking at it thinking, flipping heck, who are we going to lose here? Who are we going to lose? But the one thing that's disappointing me, I'll quickly say this, is for me, we've got now enough senior management staff who should be coming out and speaking. We hear next to nothing from Amanda, but that's not her role anymore. But when it was a role, we heard a lot from her, and it was all positive. To me now, it just seems like the only things that we're hearing at the moment, and I was a big advocate of the new people coming in, but it's all sound bites and giggles and laughs and there's not a lot of substance to it. And at these points, like George said and everyone said before us, I think it's the point where people should be coming out and saying, "Listen, we're not a selling club. If players want to go, whatever, you know what I mean. And if an offer comes in that we're happy with, we'll look at it." But it just seems there's a lot of things that are coming out that are unsettling the fan base and the club, and somebody at the club needs to get hold of it and address it.
Okay, interesting stuff, Spenny.
Hi, Paul. All right.
Hi, mate. You okay? Give us your views, mate.
I think there's a couple of scenarios actually. The press are making this stuff up after Darren Hayes' interview, possibly. And we're not selling any players at all because the transfer window's been absolutely joke. No one's buying any players, so they're trying to make up stories to get clicks and watch views on Sky Sports News.
Spot on, Spenny. Spot on.
Second view is what I've been told, which was told last night as well of Stu, that Trippier did fly from New York to go to Munich, and he's come back. We don't fly from a holiday from New York to go to Munich. So there is something in it, and I think it's him who wants to go because of allegations that we've heard in the press and what other people have said. I think Almiron will be the one that scores. I think he's definitely the weakest one out of all of them. I think it'll be 20 million for his right leg and maybe 10 for his left.
What, 10p?
Also, we've been banging on for weeks on here about getting players in and all that. I think this is maybe why we haven't been getting players in. Maybe we needed to reduce the wage bill more than anything. I think the FFP is okay at the moment. Well, I've been told anyway, the books is all right to buy players, but maybe it is the wage bill. Just disappointing that Taggart's injured because he's on 100 grand a week allegedly, so he's one of the top earners. So he would have been beneficial for selling as well. For me, I can see maybe Trippier and Almiron going, to be honest, and bringing in a DM and maybe a buy player. This is the way it's going. It's unfortunately Kieran's going because, like the lads have said, he's a spearhead for the club. He's a captain, and he's probably one of the best captains I've seen since Shearer, to be honest. The best red back we've had in the club I've seen in my lifetime as well. He's going to be a big loss, but it just seems Eddie's little circle is getting broken up for me. Wilson's gone. Trippier's gone. Who's next? Richie? They're all his pals. They all been to Bournemouth and etc. So I don't know. But maybe Almiron's the only one we can sell to make some money and buy a player or bring a player in. That's my thoughts anyway.
Okay. I mean, what I've got to say is that look, nobody's gone yet. Nobody's gone. It's a lot of speculation. We're hearing lots of noise. Nothing from Newcastle. Simply from the media. But it does start to stand up when more and more people are covering it. That's the problem. I think it's when you start seeing, Sky starting to put out there what somebody on social media has done. That's when people start to panic, and then Sky Germany get involved, Sky Italy get involved. They start talking to the people out there. Yes, there has been a bid. This has happened. So it is rather unsettling. And, if we don't let anybody go, would I be happy going through the end of the season without anybody coming in? Is that part of the plan? Is this for us to say, well, look, we could have let all those players go, but we didn't. Is it a bit of a softener for when we don't sign anybody because we can't because of FFP? And then we all go, oh, well, at least we kept a hold of Trippier. At least we kept a hold of Wilson. We can get it all sorted out in the summer. There's a school of thought suggests that might be the case as well.
But I think as well, when you were going back to what you said, Steve, FFP, I mean, these panelists understand fully FFP because the club is not coming out and saying anything because he's got in the brains of fans FFP, blame FFP. Yeah. So we're answering the question, what everybody's asking why we selling the players. The fans are saying FFP. So that thing's in your brain.
Yeah, well, it is.
Plus,
it is.
Don't forget when Neil spoke, he didn't mention hundreds of millions of sponsorship. They're just waiting to be announced.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. That comes into next year's books as well. But none of us are experts. Even the experts are scratching their heads at this one.
And that's just one thing, Steve. Why, if there's hundreds of millions of pounds worth of sponsorship that's waiting to come in, can we not do a deal to pull that forward and get some in now?
I've never made any secret on this channel. I know nothing about it. I don't understand it. I've tried to understand it, and I wouldn't. If anybody's coming on here to get an easy guide to FFP, then you're on the wrong channel. And if you go down, in fact, any of these YouTubers who say that they know what they're going on about, I beg to differ.
Ian's being held back because people will know we got money. So when we're on about bidding on players, they'll know we've got all that sponsorship money. They'll just put the price up.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Okay, Lee, welcome back, mate. I see that your fan base has joined us tonight. We've got 500 watching live, so welcome to everybody in the chat. We never take those viewing figures for granted. So thanks for joining us. But Lee, your army of fans have joined us tonight. Give us your take on what's going on at Newcastle.
Thanks, Lee.
I think probably there's a bigger picture to it. I think the way these players are being talked about, or we're discussing players being sold at the moment, is probably we maybe thought, or the board maybe thought we may be in a slightly stronger position. I think there may be a bit involved that, like Benny said, we're going to win the Champions League last time we spoke. That's how long it was ago that I was on. And I think the board have probably looked at it and thought, you know what, we're actually not where we thought we would be. We're not going to get Champions League, end of. We're in a deeper position that maybe it is time to maybe just edge a few of these forward. Your Wilsons and your Trippiers were always going to go at some point in the next year, 2 years. I think maybe it's taken stock and thought, for me, Trippier, and I know it goes against probably what a lot of the guys have said, you guys watching week in, week out, I don't. I can only go off what I see as an armchair fan, so I'll qualify that. For me, Trippier, he may be the greatest talker on the pitch, he may be the greatest whatever, but he isn't delivering on the pitch. So for me, I think possibly they're going to look at Livramento. I'd stick him right in now. Clearly, the kid's capable. We've all seen him. I'd probably move Trippier. I wouldn't Wilson. I wouldn't Almiron. I mean, Almiron, 20, 30 million with the money in the Middle East. Is that, I mean, I know everybody thinks that's a fair price, but surely you'd be spanking the Middle East out of all you can for that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a prime time. He's in the prime of his career age-wise. Surely we'd be looking for a bit more, especially like you say in the January window. So for me, the only one that's going to go is probably Trippier. And the reason for that, like you say, we don't know. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I wouldn't be disappointed if he did. Tino come in and we give him the rest of the season to get off the ground properly. But yeah, losing a player with experience is not going to be good. But we have got aging players. Your Richies, Lascelles, Wilsons, they're all 30s plus. So maybe the club are saying, look, let's just shove them now. While we're not going to get anything, let's get them out the door now. And there probably will be a plan or two in place. But
so you Dan Burn, he's another one who's past the 33.
Yeah, well, to me, Dan Burn, bless him. I mean, he's been class, but he's been hung out to dry in loads of games. But he's not a left back, is he? You know, let's
no.
So he's not a left back. He's getting left goals sometimes, but he's put his arse out for us, which is amazing. But if we're looking at the bigger picture, we're kind of firefighting, putting players in little patches. I mean, I know the injuries are a massive thing, but these are not players, Dan Burns. They're not players that are going to take us to the next level. And that's what all this is about, isn't it? You know, we've got all this money, and it just doesn't. Like, I agree with what you said before. We seem to have died down a bit. We seem to have. I don't know. There's nothing positive coming out from the club, is there? Just about sell. But journalists all the time, innit?
Yeah, that's good points. Well made, Lee. Good to have you back, Kev. Nothing to analyse on the pitch today, but plenty to analyse off it.
Oh, it's absolutely always something to analyse off of it. But I just, as everybody was talking, and agree with 99% of everything Bert said, but Miggy turns 30 in about 18, 19 days. So if you look at that model in terms of 30 years plus, back and, jumping on the lead back a little bit there and what he's saying, is there a plan in place for 30 plus to move them on? Not that it's a bad thing. That is there a plan in place that we don't know about? Is the communication not stopped, but has it been done in the right way from higher management to, like George said right at the start, the management team across the board? Has the recruitment team now said, okay, we've got to find these X age of players or a certain area of players for a certain price point? We don't know because nothing's been shelled out like it used to back in the day. But again, players are going to be players, agents are going to be agents. They'll talk to whoever they can to get the most out of a possible deal within a certain time frame of 2 points in the year. That's always happened. That'll always continue to happen if we have two windows. But again, doesn't necessarily mean that he's spoke to say to Kieran Trippier, spoke to Bayern Munich. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to go. He's got the right to go. He's got the right to have that conversation with them. He could do that. Yes, he might not. It's all down to the player and if the deals are right for him. Similarly with Miguel, similarly, it's the same thing. So if you look at that standpoint, anybody can talk to anybody in a business. If I want to move on in my job, I'm going to talk to people and say what deal I can get for myself. It's a selfish game. Players are selfish. So therefore, yes, they play on the team, but they're very within and all about looking after themselves versus the team as a collective. It's all about us. It's all about me. So if they go, they go. Best wishes to you. Thanks for your commitment level. But the one for me is I would get the value for Miggy. I'll get the value for him. I'll keep Kieran Trippier because he's just walk within that dressing room. If he goes, the wheels will probably fall off for the back end of the year. I think he holds everything together. Yes, there might be arguments. Yes, I'm a bit of an armchair fan as well. I don't get to see games. I just see them live on the telly. But at the same time, I don't get to see the intricacies on a game of like who's having a chat with who. You don't know what's being said. It could be an actual good argument. It might be a bad one. Who knows? Somebody might piss somebody off. Nobody knows because you're not there every day. So I would keep like I said, keep Trippier. The Wilsons of the world. Would you sell him anyway? Would you get any value? Probably not because he's injured at the minute or on the way back from injury. He could have a breakdown. He could go anywhere and it could still happen. Yes, we get him off our wage bill, but I wouldn't be. It's not a one that I'll be going looking to buy. But yeah, I'll be, I wouldn't say happy, but if the value's there for Miggy, I would move him on in terms of, yes, he's just on the right side of 30 the minute before the window shuts and you can get a bit of money for him, then just move him on. And again, thanks very much. And keep the players that we have is that close knit and then reevaluate in the summer plus the players that we have coming back. So I would just keep it as it is, but just shift one on.
Craig Hope's latest
talked
about a
valuation,
minute ago there, which is what Spenny sent us. I'm told Almiron move to Al Shabaab is unlikely, but that's not the definite no we're getting on Trippier Wilson. Go on, Spenny.
Thing is about valuation and what we get in the club. We don't even know how much maximum went for yet.
Fair point, I.
Probably about 21, 22 million, you would imagine. But a lot of people said that was too cheap. People now saying that 25 million, 30 million is what you need for Almiron. But if you look at the ages that Life Goals has sent, Manquillo, who's just left, 30, Miggy 30, Byrne 31, Trippier 33, Wilson 32, Richie 34, Dummett 32.
How much was Henderson though?
Shaw 32. Yeah, it's a good.
And I would, Ian, if you want young players. No point having the aging team. We need young youth players.
That's a point. It's a point well made, but I still think my argument will be on this particular transfer window is that we've had a last 2 months from hell with injuries, with 11 or 12 players laid off at any one time, not with short-term injuries, long-term injuries, to basically, are we writing this season off? Are we saying, I tell you what, let's just forget about this season. Let's change things now because the summer's too late. Is that what we're doing? That's potentially what we could be doing if these players do go. Alan. It's a strange situation because we shouldn't really be too downhearted. We've had a great couple of years. We've still got PIF are still in control. I did jokingly say, like, at the moment you feel like you're going to wake up and Amanda's going to peel her face off and Mike Ashley's going to be underneath it, but it's nowhere near that kind of level. But that's what it feels like at the moment.
Steve, I'm the total opposite. I mean, the YouTubers are going in panic mode. I'm over the moon at this. I think it's great. Life Goals had a great.
It's giving you something to complain about, Alan.
All the speculation. Nobody's moved out. Nobody's done anything. I had Miggy Almiron into a link 18 months ago. I couldn't sell him a car boot sale for £5. So I'm over the moon. So come on, lads, wake up. Life Goals had it on the head. We've got about 10 players. Wilson and Trippier, the old age pensioners in football terms. I agree with George about the experience, but lads, we've got to move on quickly. Darren Eales had an interview a week ago basically saying every player is up for sale. Every player at the right price is up for sale. That's what came through to me, lads. We've got to move on.
Yeah.
I'm not downbeat. Honestly, the YouTubers in so much panic the last few days, and everybody's downbeat about it. I'm not.
So Alan, are you saying this? Are you saying that what Darren Eales said? Are you saying that this was all part of the plan? Because we listened to that interview with 7 minutes. I said this is the reason we're getting all this press speculation. The press speculation has grown legs now with bids coming in from clubs. So are you saying this was Darren Eales lighting the blue touch paper deliberately and given the blessing to do that?
Definitely, I think so. And I think, to be honest, isn't it great to be linked with all these top clubs wanting our players? And Ashley, she's down and had hypothermia.
I wouldn't say top players like Alan.
Sorry, Dan?
I wouldn't say top players we've got. So like Almirons, you will say I wouldn't say the top players.
Well,
the aging players.
I agree with you, Dan. And that's why I'm not nervous or worried, because if they were selling the likes of Botman, Bruno, Isaac, then I would be really worried.
Yeah, totally.
That's when I would be worried.
I would sell Trippier for £30 million, and I would play Tino Livramento right back all day long.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hendrick's going to Gateshead for 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be fantastic. I couldn't see it.
I honestly think, lads, I'll just leave it with this so Chippers can get on. I'm super excited, me, lads. I mean, a lot of people are panicking. It's like Dad's Army. I'm saying, don't panic. I mean, really, nobody's been sold. Nobody's been sold yet, lads. See what happens to the end of the window.
Chippers,
I think it's brilliant, mate. I just think it's brilliant.
How do you feel, Chippers?
I'm not too worried yet again, because at the minute it's all paper talk. Nothing's actually happened yet. No fees have been agreed. None of that situation's happened yet. So the one thing I will say is, though, Life Goals made the point then, the only one apart from, I think Miggy signed a new contract was it some stage last season when he was having his purple patch. Most of them are out of contract at the end of this season or next season, so we're going to have a big overhaul anyways, depending on what happens. For me, the big three that have been linked away, I would get rid of Almiron personally because he's not going to get any better.
Brilliant, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Live footage from
Can he
St
bop?
James's Park, courtesy of Spenny, who nipped up to the ground to sort this out for us.
Is that spoons with Almiron on top of him?
Great to see great to see Rick Astley top left.
And
That Gerard.
And Bernard Manning with his little camera on blue.
Brilliant, man.
Sorry,
Brilliant.
Chippers. I cut you off in mid-flow.
For me, Almiron, for me, a 30-year-old, he's not going to get any better. Wilson, he's not going to get any better. And I don't think Trippier isn't going to get any better. But the one thing I will say Trippier's got over the other two is these leadership skills and he's like bit of captaincy. Like he's got that about him which we would lack if we were to get rid of him. So for me, out of the three, if we had to sell either one of them, I would get rid of Wilson and Almiron because for me, Wilson's injury record, it's not good enough for if we want to progress to another level, which is he'll need to play 20 to 30 games a season. He won't do that. It's as simple as that. Trippier, for me, if we kept him to the summer and then we replaced him with somebody else, I would be happy with that because then we'll probably need him for these next 6 months to get through it. But in 6 months' time, are we going to get the valuation of what Craig Hope says that we're valuing them? So that's another thing. Because these players are getting 6 months their contract goes, so that gives them 1 year left. So again, that the valuation drops. It's just a case of, you know, for me, if they do go, I just hope there is players lined up, and I would expect players to already have like agreed terms to come, and we've settled these players this, and if these three can get shifted or two of them, then you're coming in. All you need to do is have your medical in. The fee's no problem. But you know, as I just said, there's nothing. We all know nothing's happened yet. Again, it's just all paper talk. It's all speculating, accumulating. But it's going to be it could be a bumpy next 9 days in the window. It could be a quiet. Nothing could happen. We can't say nobody could leave. But that's just it now. None of us know the exact things of what's going on. There's no moles at the club. There's no nothing. It's just guesswork. And for me, that's how you want it. You don't want like what was under when Bruce was here, when things were being leaked left, right, and centre. You know, and the one thing as we have to know is now is if players do leave, the money's going to be put back into the club to re-sign players. It's not going to go in the owner's pocket and he's going to gallivant doing a casino and spend it. So for me, what we're doing is it's the right, it's like Mike Ashley would do. But it's for me that's the thing I would say is what happens, and I think as well we'll have to put the sentiment side to it one side and say, you know what, if we want to be one of the best clubs in the world, sentiment gets thrown out the window because that doesn't win you trophies or win you anything. So we'll have to also get rid of that now. And for me, yeah, if people like Trippier, if they do go, we can say thank you for helping us get to sort of another level. But we need to kick on now. We need to go. We need to flourish and get to that of next level, which is ultimately winning things. So that's how I see it.
Are we actually at ground zero where we can't spend a penny?
Well, this is what you would imagine. This is what you would imagine. It's the picture that Eels painted, George.
Yeah,
it
is. How can that be when we look at the size of the club we've got? Surely we haven't spent that much, you know. So surely we can spend something.
But we haven't really had any sponsorship or anything coming into the club, have we, for years? We haven't really had any money coming into the club for years, and we've got to build that up. We've got to build up. If you look at, say, a lot of our clubs have got massive sponsorship deals, and we've just started these sponsorship deals in the last year to 18 months, so it takes time to build it all up.
We've got sponsorship deals just waiting to be announced. And that can be counted for next year. No, I don't think we are at ground zero. The other thing while I'm talking is to say that Kieran Tripper's never delivered on the pitch. What utter tripe. Honestly. He's the top assist in Europe as a fullback and better than most midfielders in the UK. So, you know, doesn't deliver on the pitch, just doesn't stand up.
For them people that's asking in the chat, Amanda's bags for sale for 3 camels, right? And an authenticity is it's got Barclays on the back.
Chibas, I'll start with you, so you don't have to wait for this one. But I mean, Amanda and Mia Dad, they were quite, quite vocal. They were at the forefront of everything that we saw on TV, heard on radio, and saw on social media. Mia Dad using Twitter, Amanda using Instagram, but they seem to be backing off now. We saw in the latest set of accounts, succession of loans that have come out, which Amanda's taken out, which are going to be repaid. But do you think we're seeing the beginning of the end of Mia Dad and Amanda? Because Darren Eales, is there as the spokesman, and we've got Silverstone, who now deals with the big deals to bring in sponsorship. Lots of rumours circulating potentially about the Rubens, Jamie Rubin taking 20%, and Amanda and Mia Dad exiting the stage left. Do you think that could be the case?
It wouldn't surprise us. It wouldn't surprise us if they've got other things in the lined up ready as well. So, I think they could. We don't know. I think possibly they could, but I also think they could also retain something in the club because they worked hard to get the club taken over. That they might just think, well, if they walk away from it, they might just think, well, that's a lot of hard work gone to waste because we're not involved with it anymore. And they might even wait until we win something and then say, listen, we'll go because we've achieved what we wanted to do with that club and brought them from the bottom and won something. So they may do, but it might be a while yet. I don't think it'll happen within the next year. So I think they'll want to see how we do competing wise, and if we win a trophy, then they can say, listen, we've won you a trophy. What more do you want us to do? It's all down to PIF now. So I think in the future it will happen, but not in the immediate future.
Okay.
Can I just say something?
Go on, Ian.
So I agree. I think it does look like that's going to be the case, and I think it's more of a financial thing that they can't keep up financially with their 10% stake. Is probably the way it looks at the moment. But I think I'd be really disappointed because I think they've been great for the club. And if there was a way of keeping them involved, I personally would like to keep Amanda and Mia Dad involved.
Okay. Alan?
I'd love them to keep being involved, Ian, but I agree totally what Chipper says, and I can honestly see them backing away. The business people at the end of the day, and I can see them going in the long term, and it wouldn't be a surprise at all. So I can see them dropping out over a period of time in the next 2, 3, 4 years, to be honest. So I'll leave it at that. That's my answer, Steve. I think they are backing away slowly but surely. But I agree with Chippers. If we win a trophy, I think that would be the perfect time to drop out and bail out, if you like, for want of a better word, and say, listen, our job's done. Now it's PIF take over fully, or even the Rubens, 20%, which I wouldn't be too concerned about.
All right, Darren, I'll ask you next, seeing as though Ian started off a new trend.
I do think they love the club, but I don't think they've got the money to come. We don't know how it works, transfer, how much they're going to pay and all that thing. But I think they might set up win the trophy, but that's going to take years. But I'm more concerned that no one's talking to the fans. They used to talk to the fans, but no one from the club is talking to the fans now. Everything went silent. Everything's speculation. We need somebody to come and talk to the fans more regular. We need a spokesperson. So yeah, this is what's happening, but no one is. That's my biggest worry at the minute.
All right, Kev.
Well, what has it been? 7 years when they've been through this process together to get to where we are at this point. Mia Dad and Amanda talking about. I think they are the type of people to where they'll build a business versus being there for the long haul, based on their just finances. Financially, I don't think they can do it. And I agree with Chippers and everybody else. I think they see them gradually just going stage right, stage left, whatever you use, Steve, just to go in the background. I think they might have some stake within the club, but it'll not be within the 10% of the world. I think it'd be less than 5. And I think obviously the Rubens are a wealthy family pair. They've got pretty much all the money in the world, it seems. But I think it would have to be somebody else as another investor coming in outside sponsorship at the same time. Look elsewhere, I don't know, wherever, whoever's got the money to put down and be a part, have a percentage within the club, have somebody else who's within a certain realm of business, i.e. the football world, knows a little bit more about it. I'm not saying they don't. I just think they know, capital and money and trying to build a business and get it going and get it off the ground and be sustainable. And I think they'll just move on. It's somebody who needs to know a bit more about the football world and how it operates fully. And then, we'll see their removal essentially. Then the club are fully head in a proper direction. I mean, so like you can say a 3-year plan for them. That'll be 8 years total through the whole process. And then then they can move on again. Thank you again. There's no sentiment in football. You just move forward.
Okay, Barry.
It's a hard one because I totally understand what the guys are saying about their financial strength against some of the other groups who were there. But for me, it would be a real shame because I think they are much more approachable than who we've got there at the minute, who seems to keep his head down, barely interacts with the fans. I think Amanda's been very sort of open and honest about what she's thought about the club and everything else. And I think the fans really appreciate that from the two of them. So I think it would be a real shame if they backed off completely. Because I honestly thought when they started bringing in these big names in specific positions that the communication side of it would improve, Steve, and it hasn't. It's gone the opposite way. And I'm not necessarily talking about transfers because obviously that's something they want to keep aside. But there's how many stories have we had about the fans liaison groups, about the tickets, about all these issues that if just somebody at the club had come out and made it a bit clearer to the fans, it would have stopped so many of the problems. We've talked about how the club is it's pushing some of the fans away because there's no communication between someone in that position at the club. And I think Amanda and Nedad were ideal in that for me. But I don't know. I think the last thing I want is Newcastle to become distanced from the fans. And I think at the minute they're doing that. I love the new owners being there because I think they've got their hearts in the right place. They want to take us forward. They're investing big time in what we've got. But you've got to take the fans with the club. You can't have one without the other. Or then it's completely pointless for me. It's not Newcastle United anymore if you don't keep the fans involved. And that's my biggest worry at the minute, that if we lose Amanda as well, if they back off, then it's another potential link to the fans' loss. And I would
trust Amanda.
Okay, Benny says, I expect to hear from Dan Ashworth and or Amanda on the 1st of February. If there are major outgoings, their hands are tied before that if negotiations are going on. Thanks, Benny. Lee, thoughts on potentially, a change in the boardroom, which could happen?
Yeah, disappointing, Paul, to be honest, because exactly what Barry said, it kind of gives us that feel-good factor again, and like there was some connection or there was some love coming from above, and transparency. So to kind of lose that aspect of it, it's just more negative, isn't it? We talk about transfer window on the pitch at the moment, and it'll be a massive shame if them two go, because I think we all kind of took to them, especially after the last ownership. It was literally yin and yang. It was unbelievable to have someone speaking to you, and you felt like they actually had an interest. But at the end of the day, the business people, I can't imagine they would lose money on it. They would have made a penny. And maybe they've looked at it and thought, we can't take it forward any further or be part of it. So let's get out now, move on to something else. It's a shame, but it's just business and football, isn't it?
And don't panic if you're tuning in late. There hasn't been an announcement to say Amanda's stepping down. It's simply, it's the fact that they've gone very quiet. Because there's other people in those kind of positions, I guess, Spenny. That's the reason they've done it. But, it wouldn't surprise me to see it in due course that they do, move on.
Well, I just had a message of our mate, Mr. Hasty, and apparently she's put no funds in. So the stake's gone down to 6%. diluted to 6%.
Okay.
So I think they will go. I think PIF will take 100% control of the club and bring their own guys in. After all, they've got the best in the business. Probably bring some more world-renowned football people in. Don't get us wrong. I love me, Dad. I love Amanda, what they've done for the club. They're really nice people.
Yeah.
Me, Dad, has nothing to do with the club. He's just there because it's his husband. He is more wealthier than Amanda, by the way, as well. But for me, they always go down as history as the people who got the takeover done. That's why they got the percentage what they got. They haven't actually put any money in. It was like a little present from the Saudis getting it done. So for me, I think it's a matter of time, to be honest, that this will be all took over by PIF, and they'll bring their own guys in. Myself.
I genuinely didn't know that this had been put out there today. So there we go. And it looks like it's just gone out. Greg Cordell has put this out on his Twitter. I'm not sure of Greg's job. I haven't had time to look at it. I've just been sent the same screenshot I think Spenny's relating to. JV1 Limited published its confirmation statement. There were no funds paid in by Amanda Staveley, Canterville Holdings in 2023. 23.4 million shares allotted to RB Sports and Media. 11.4 million in Feb 23, 12 million in August 23. Staveley's beneficial stake in Newcastle United has been diluted to 6%. That's what it says. I'm just mute Darren as he's dealing with his dogs. But yes, so just basically because I'm talking about that today, and then that's gone out on Twitter. Interesting to see that then, Spenny, isn't it?
It is interesting. And like I said, I think it's a matter of time when Pip's took this bit. Thing is, we know what Saudis are like. We obviously talk to Holloway all the time, and he's giving us the information we got. They want to be number one. Simple as that. Number one in anything. And like any other money men, they want to be number one when they put money in. And they can't. And if they're seeing what's happening now, what's happened to the club, and what all this honeymoon period's gone. The honeymoon period's gone now.
Okay, George, last word to you tonight.
Well, I've got to agree that I think all the signs are that there's movement, which wouldn't surprise me. I also agree with Spenny. Whatever happens, PIF will run Newcastle United sooner rather than later. They ain't going to take second best from anybody. Otherwise, they would walk away. Simple as that. They're not second best in anything they do. The last thing I think Amanda will do for football, she'll be part of the team that breaks the FFP thing with the Premier League. When they have their meeting, there's a meeting shortly, isn't there? In February or something?
February, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think she'll be one of the rebels that smashes the FFP coziness for the top six, because the other clubs must be suffering as well. In fact, some of them are obviously suffering. So I think that'll be one of the last things Amanda does for football. Never mind Newcastle United. She'll be part of the group that gets rid of FFP as we know it. Remember, she's the one that hung on to Newcastle United. The Saudis were looking for football. They weren't necessarily looking for Newcastle United. But Amanda brought them to Newcastle United, and we've got to be eternally grateful from that. I have other personal issues about the takeover, but which you would know about, Steve. But apart from that, I've always been very positive about it. I have the issues I keep coming back to. Treatment of fans. And Barry's right. Everything that I've seen from that bloody video that published several months ago was geared to middle class and upper class fans. That not Gallagher Corner fans. It really looked like me as a sell to a different fan base to the one we've got. And everything they've done since makes me feel like that. Did you all fill that questionnaire in about buying the seats at the tunnel and all that sort of thing? How do you think that wasn't aimed for us, is it? Reading between the lines, they want to change the fan base to a wealthy fan base. And somebody needs to tell PFI, nah, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen here. Well, if it does, it'll be with a whole series of uproar with fans, because that it's not our style. It's not Tynesyde's style. And if you want to be like that, well, go and have your prawn sandwiches with Manchester United, but you're not going to get them at Newcastle United, that's for sure. So it'll be sad if they go. I would be disappointed and sad, but I could understand it because they're business people first and foremost. But I sincerely think her last hurrah, if you like, for football will be to get rid of FFP.
Maybe the stadium move as well, George. We know that it's going to be moving after what we've been told as well. Maybe it's the FFP and the stadium, new stadium getting built. Then they'll probably go. See that being opening and they'll go.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. Tomorrow night, we launch a new show. It's called Talk of the Tune with myself and Sid, who you will meet tomorrow night. Tuesday night, a slightly different look to them in 2024. So something a little bit different. Tune in 6 o'clock tomorrow night to see that. Wednesday night, there'll be a pre-recorded version of Geordie's Here, Geordie's There. I'm sure there'll be a few tributes to Steve Wilkinson on that show as well from the lads. Thursday morning, Super Matt and Gibbo at 10 o'clock. Tune into that. If you miss it live, of course, you can watch it on catch up. And then Friday, the Amigos is back 5 o'clock for 2 hours until 7 on Friday. Great show, guys. Just want to thank Alan, Kevin, Lee, Spenny, Chippers, Ian, Darren, Barry, and George. But thank you as well for tuning in. 500.
Good to see you, lads. Good to see you.
Fantastic. Take care, guys.
Mind the gap.